Are housing prices about to collapse? Probably not, and here's why. Here's an article from NASDAQ that you guys are going to absolutely love. Let's jump right in. Check this out. This morning, housing stats at first glance not very good. The headline housing starts numbers showed a decline from close to 10% from last month's numbers versus a consensus expectation for a drop of closer to 3%. There was little relief from the builders' permits numbers that was a little higher than expected, but even so, it appears that the housing building boom is well and truly over. But does that mean the house prices are going to take a nosedive? Well, obviously, if we have less inventory, they're not going to take a nosedive. So I wish we could be in a situation where we are building more homes. Unfortunately, we have such a tight supply right now, and it might get even tighter in my opinion. You know, with inflation, a lot of people don't really want to sell because they know if they sell their house, they got to move into another house. Rent is astronomically high right now, so nobody really wants to take that chance. And the cost of borrowing money is really expensive. Plus, we're in literally a housing bubble, right? The prices have ballooned like crazy. If we jump over to the Redfin weekly housing market data, and you look at the median sale price, you can see how 2019 right here in this blue line in the bottom, now look at 2022. So look how much we grew, right? We grew from an average house of $275 back in 2019. That same house is $379 now, almost $100,000 more. Well, that's all great, but the reason this came about wasn't from natural, like a natural progression of the housing market. Because what happened was, first of all, we came into a hot market with all the tax cuts. People had a little bit more money. Then we jumped into coronavirus. You can see this 2020, this red dip right here was basically when we had the shutdowns, and the freaking feds lowered the rates to zero, which created, you know, opportunity for, you know, not that many buyers, but those few buyers who were available, there was, you know, quite a bit in a way, they had access to a lot of money. But the problem was that on the supply side, unfortunately, we had a huge supply crunch because nobody was putting their houses on the market when the whole country was shut down. So then it made those few houses available, plus you had all the people with basically free financing, free money. They went in, they jumped into the market, they made the market pop. And as a result, it created a huge housing bubble, but a huge housing bubble, a housing bubble that in the last 3 years, it went up $100,000. Now, we all might think like, hey, that's great. You know, housing goes up, it always goes up, but it is bad only because now we're being priced out of our communities. And when it's too expensive for us to live in the community, that's when we're clearly heading for a crash. Now, what can make that crash not necessarily happen? Well, it's inflation. Inflation keeps everything expensive. And right now we have high employment. And if you've been looking at the news, people have had to hire people for more money. And so now the cost of goods is gonna essentially become more expensive because all the employees right now are making more money. We have a labor shortage. We had the Great Resignation for, you know, these warehouses to bring in employees, you know, factory workers. They used to pay them like $18 an hour. They try to, you know, give them $25 an hour. They wouldn't come back to work. And then they literally had to go above $30 an hour. What do you think that's gonna do when, you know, companies, a company's salaries basically, you know, go from $18 an hour, what they have to pay their employees, all the way to $32 an hour or above $30 an hour. It's gonna make their profits as a company less, you know, for the owners, and as a result, they're going to have to raise prices, keeping inflation up. It's kind of like a sick, you know, thing that's happening to our economy, and we're probably gonna see some of that in the housing market. Now, what could make it change? What could make it change is if we go into a scenario where we have slow GDP growth, and basically if companies begin to lay people off, right, it crashes the stock market, and then we have, you know, more people out in the on unemployment, and suddenly now the companies can start hiring people at lower wages. I know that sounds awful, I get it, but we are in a situation where, you know, if we don't get inflation under control, things might never come down. So that is, in my opinion, what is keeping the house prices, relatively high, right? So unless we see a change in inflation, we're probably not gonna see a huge crash anytime soon. Here's a good paragraph. There's also the fact that for the last 6 months, TV pundits have been kicking around about a coming recession. For most homebuyers and consumers, that will bring back memories of 2008, at the time when unemployment spiked and household prices collapsed, leaving a lot of people in a lot of trouble. But they look at a big jump in housing prices over the last couple of years, hear heated discussions about whether we're heading into a recession or are already in one, and have a perfectly understandable reluctance to buy, fear that they might be hitting the top of the market. So yeah, I don't blame them. I do believe that we are definitely in the top of the market. And what is going to happen is basically the supply is getting a little bit better. We are having more houses sit in the market longer, but again, we're still dealing with an incredibly low supply. And now that rates are going up, we're basically having less buyers. So we have a situation right now where it's all out of whack, and technically we should see prices coming down, and they have somewhat come down a little bit, but definitely not enough. So we're gonna have to monitor, see how this all pans out. But again, I think if you're a buyer, you probably wanna wait a little bit. I think the crash is coming, but it's not gonna be like a one day to the next crash. I think it's gonna happen over the next year, 2 years. So definitely looking forward to jumping into a second property for myself, that I think I'm going to have an amazing buying opportunities in the coming years, and probably in about a year, 6 months. So definitely looking forward to that. Definitely currently saving as much money as possible for that down payment. I'm definitely trying to put above 20% because I do want to turn it into a rental property. And in order for that to happen, you really have to put, as much down, because sometimes rent is not as much as the mortgage is, especially if you buy, and you don't put that much down, and you buy the house is a little bit too expensive, it makes it harder to rent. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But I want to hear your thoughts. Are you guys in the housing market? Are you guys looking to jump in? Are you guys looking to sell? What are your thoughts? And tell me, please, give me some of your experiences. I would love to hear about it. And talking about the channel in general, I just want to say thank you for everybody who's been supporting my channel, liking my videos, commenting on my videos. It really does mean a lot to me, and thank you for all your support. If this is your first time listening to my videos and you enjoy what I have to say, and you enjoy these videos, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button and go ahead and like and leave a comment. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.